How did news in your neighborhood usually circulate?
Well, probably I got a lot of news from my mother. I mean, she was very aware of everything wherever we lived, and she would talk about things that were going on or that were doing. I mean, remember there was a teacher strike when I was in El Cerrito going to this school, and we didn't go. We supported the teachers because my mother was a teacher and supported unions, and so I got a lot of news from her, but I don't know that I got a lot of news in the neighborhood.
What was the teacher strike about?
I don't remember. I was in 7th or 8th grade.
That's fine. What specific like news do you remember from like your mother, like about the teacher strikes?
Well, I remember that we were supporting the teachers, and so I didn't go to school. I know that the theme of this oral history has to do with racial attitudes, and I was really upset at Proposition 14 that was on the state ballot in 1964, and probably I got some of that information from my mother.
What was the Proposition
14. It was to repeal the Rumford Act, and the Rumford Fair Housing Act was passed by a congressman, a state legislator, Byron Rumford, and it made it so that people could not discriminate who they rented to or who they sold houses to. And as soon as it passed the legislature, the real estate people got together and put Proposition 14 on the ballot that would repeal that act and add an amendment to the state constitution that people could decide who to sell or rent to, and they could discriminate. And it passed 2-1 in the state of California, and it passed in San Francisco, and it passed in the Sunset. But it was later declared unconstitutional by the state and U.S. Supreme Courts.
And how did you feel about that when it was finally passed by Congress?
Well, what's funny is that when it passed, I didn't really understand much about the Rumford Act, but I think my mother must have told me what it essentially did, because at 12 years old, I was really upset about Proposition 14. And actually, the book I wrote on the history of the Sunset ends in 1964, specifically so I could include that the proposition and that whole election, because I as a kid, I was really horrified by that.